As I approach the winter solstice, this darkest time of year, it always pulls me in toward reflection and rest and wonder. I find that I add on an extra hour of sleep at night, so I'm sleeping 8 hours instead of 7, which I do all summer. Being new to Bozeman winters, I try not to be frustrated by the cold and the short days and the ice. And instead, I try to look out at night and see the stars that are flung across the velvet sky. I try to see those stars as an invitation and a blessing. I think about how the ancients pondered and gave meaning to the change of the seasons, the shifting of the stars, and we still give meaning to the change of the seasons. It is the ancient in us that we bring with us into the modern day. But long ago, they were telling stories and making predictions. So when I saw that this month's theme of December is wonder, I thought, what are we doing currently around this solstice time? And how do those stars flung across the velvet and science work together? Do we have to give up one thing to have the other? Or can science and our ancient traditions work perfectly together? So I want to say I was inspired by the work of Unitarian minister Victoria Safford as I thought about what I wanted to say this morning. She points us to a reading by Chet Ramo, who, some of you may know that name if you're in the sciences, but he is a professor of physics and astronomy and a former science writer for the Boston Globe. So Chet Ramo writes, 100 years ago, the eminent physicist Lord Kelvin confidently asserted that the work of science was complete. Newton's mechanics and Maxwell's theory of electromagnetism had been wonderfully successful in explaining a wide range of phenomena. There was nothing more to learn, said Kelvin. Only 2 small clouds remained out at the horizon to trouble him. Thorny little problems regarding the behavior of light. By the end of the 19th century, the 2 small clouds had grown into these huge thunderheads. The first bit of trouble was finally resolved by, and I'm not going to pronounce this right, Planck's theory of the quantum. The second was resolved by Einstein's theory of relativity. Quantum physics and relativity are cornerstones for our present understanding of the world. But Ramo says they're like rabbit holes that lead into the wonderlands of fresh mystery. Wonderlands with a capital W. Every accumulation of knowledge is full of rabbit holes, he says. Enter a rabbit hole, quantum physics say, that the hole has its own rabbit holes, leading down to other exotic terrains. One doesn't have to be Lord Kelvin or an Einstein to find a place to enter. A leaf of grass will provide ingress to infinity. The ancients believed that the stars were pinholes in the dome of the sky. So you have the dome, and the light that shone through was from an outer, second, more wonderful world. And it's true, every star is a rabbit hole into another world. In the course of a lifetime of starry nights, Ramos says, I could not explore them all. But instead, he says, as advice to us, I lie on my back and the light of 10,000 stars enters my eyes. 10,000 subtle but distinct wavelets of energy enter my eyes at slightly different angles and from different depths in space. And by some miracle, my eyes and my brain sort it out. Put each star in its proper place and recognize the familiar patterns of constellations. I open my soul to the universe whose length and breadth exceed my wildest imagining. Starlight falls on me like gentle rain. It blows me across me like a furious wind, and I am soaked and shaken. Let this then be the grounding of my faith. All that we know now and forever, all scientific knowledge that we have of this world, or ever will have, is an island in a sea, and still mystery surrounds us. Reverend Safford believes that science and wonder must, not just can, but must coexist, always interacting with one another, and that there is no certainty. That's part of what they have in common, is no certainty. Her response to Lord Kelvin is, some scientists are certain and only interested in certainty. For them, there's no mystery, only things they don't know yet. But for them, the sea of mystery that Ramo talks about is not a rolling ocean. It's a backwater of ignorance. It's just a swamp to be drained. They believe that someday humans will solve the last equation and the evidence will all be in. It sounds so smug. But science that knows for sure is never truly science. Just as faith that knows for such about God or death or love or loss, add whatever speaks to your heart, can't truly be spirituality or faith. Because faith that knows for sure isn't faith, it's fundamentalism, which is lazier and clumsier than faith, less faithful than faith. And science that imagines an end to exploration is not science, not pure science anyway, with a deep humility and an unquenchable curiosity that will test every theory and shake down every equation to see if it will really hold over time and in every circumstance. So Safford and Chet Ramo, the physicist and astronomer, they shake down every equation to see if it will hold. They remind us that quantum physics and relativity are the cornerstones to our present understanding of the cosmos, how it works, how it came about, how it holds together. And Ramos knows that it's also flying apart at the same time. And that quantum theory and relativity have proven also to be rabbit holes leading down to those Alice in Wonderlands of fresh mystery. The sea of mystery. The islands of knowledge are small, but they are mountains underneath, layer upon layer of hypothesis tested for soundness and truth. There is so much humility in that island image, which I think is a takeaway for us today. What we know deeply, and by certain kinds of methods, whether that be science or our own experiences. It's what we don't know that is so much more profound. And I think, and I will quote Reverend Safford, I think the spiritual task is to hold the mystery, all that darkness, with tremendous excitement, trying always to be neither frightened nor arrogant as we sail our blue boat home. Tragically, we are also living in a time where there is hostility toward true science. If there weren't such hostility toward true science, we would have been thinking about global warming decades ago. Instead of all the financial, political, and religious reasons touted by lobbyists and lawmakers, and people in pulpits, those deny that the things that contribute to global warming or even exist, or that they're harmful, or that they can't possibly be related. Or we might have from a pulpit, it's just God's will that so many will suffer. God's will that almost all the disenfranchised will suffer the most. The deeper my worries about climate, the greater my appreciation of science. And apparently that is statistically true for all of us. I agree with Safford that our spiritual task is to hold the mystery and awe and excitement, and to let the unknown down in the rabbit holes intrigue us and inspire us, to see a great mystery as a place that beckons and welcomes us, not just during the solstice time, but all year. It reminds me of the quote from Albert Einstein when he was looking back on his life, and I would imagine at least half of you have heard this before. Do not grow old, no matter how long you live. Never cease to stand like curious children before the great mystery into which you were born. The important thing is not to stop questioning. Curiosity has its own reason for existing. One cannot help but be in awe, in contemplation of eternity, of life, of the marvelous structure of reality. It is enough if you try merely to comprehend a little bit of this mystery every day. Never lose a holy curiosity. So as the great wheel turns closer to solstice, let's not be too quick to turn on our lights or distract ourselves into the mundane and the busyness of it all. Take time to gaze out your window into the night and see the lights from a distant ancient suns. What are they for you? Signs for modern day magi to travel by? Something to wish upon? Omens? Or just magnificent lumps of molten rock whose light comes from billions of miles away? And I know science explains that, but I still think it's a miracle that I can just look out my window and see it. So make room for mystery and wonder. Be available to new knowledge. Knowledge gained through experience, through story, metaphor, and just really seeing what's in front of us. Stay curious and plunge down those rabbit holes. Pack a lunch. And be thankful for all that science and faith have given us, and know that they do not need to be separate. I will close from a few quotes from the civil rights leader and theologian, Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel. When you forfeit your sense of awe, you let your conceit diminish your ability to revere. And then the universe becomes a marketplace for you. Endless wonder unlocks an innate sense of indebtedness. Within our awe, there is no place for self-assertion. Within our awe, we only know that all we own, we owe. Our goal should be to live life in radical amazement. Get up in the morning and look at the world in a way that takes nothing for granted. Everything is phenomenal. Everything is incredible. Never treat life casually. To be spiritual is to be amazed. So I wish you wonder and amazement as you move into your week and into solstice. I also wish for you sticky fingers if you stay for the cookie decorating. Blessed be.